Hi everybody, welcome to another video. If you're new here, this is the Sketchbook Chronicles. It's a channel dedicated to my art and my journey as an artist. I post a lot of videos that showcase my artwork, tutorials, reviews, things like that. So if that's something that you're interested in, please consider subscribing. I truly appreciate all the support. And with that in mind, I thought this week's video would be dedicated to beginners and people who are getting started on their own artistic journey. I know that it can be intimidating, especially if you're someone who's never really drawn before, but it kind of interests you and you're thinking about doing it, or even if you're somebody who used to draw but you haven't done it in a while, you might not be sure where to start. This video is perfect for you. And let's get right into it with probably the most important thing you'll need, which is a sketchbook. I would recommend getting something that's relatively affordable. I know going into an art supply store, it can be intimidating with the selection of sketchbooks that they have, and a lot of them are pretty expensive, especially when you get into like the specialized sketchbooks for like watercolor and things like that. But something like this with just like a cardboard cover is perfect. I actually got this from Amazon for about $10 US, and it's a pretty good bargain, especially for what you're getting. The paper quality is relatively good, and you do get a lot of pages. I believe this has 125 pages, so you've got a good amount of pages here. And I also recommend getting something that's affordable because it takes some of the pressure off. I know, especially for me, like when I started, I was always a little weary of getting the more expensive sketchbooks, because whenever I did get them, or if I would receive them as a gift, I was always so paranoid about making every piece that I drew in that sketchbook perfect, and I'd kind of got in my own head about it, and I ended up not drawing as much as I would have liked in those sketchbooks. So this takes some of the pressure off, because again, like I said, it's relatively cheap. You get enough pages where you don't really have to worry about if something doesn't turn out the way you like it. You just turn the page over and you start a new sketch. So that's the sketchbook I'd recommend. Then obviously you're going to need something to draw with. I'd recommend a pencil or a pen. I happen to really like black wings, but any pencil is fine. Just a regular number 2 pencil that you've got laying around, or even if you have like colored pencils, or any pencil, it will work. Same thing with the pen. I just have like a ballpoint pen here. The one thing I will say about pencils versus pens, I know this can be intimidating, but I would highly recommend just going with a pen. The reason for that being, it helps build your confidence up a lot faster, because with a pencil, you know that you have the option to erase a mark if it doesn't come out exactly how you wanted it to. But a pen doesn't give you that option, which again, I know can be intimidating, but in the long run is actually better for you and will make you a better artist, a more confident artist, just because again, you don't have the option to erase with ink. So I know it can be a little scary, but I would definitely recommend a pen. And that's really all you need to get started. Everything else is kind of just gonna be extra. So if you wanna get, again, markers, watercolor, things like that, go for it. Again, I would always recommend for things like watercolor, usually you have different brands will usually have like student grade versus artist grade watercolor. I would recommend the student grade, especially starting out, especially if you're someone who's never worked with watercolor as well, just so that you can get an idea and a feel for how the medium works. And you can always buy the more expensive version later if it's something that you really enjoy. But I would definitely stick with just the most affordable stuff for now, just to see what you like, what you don't like, and that way you don't have to worry about breaking the bank. As far as actually getting started, there's really no best way to start a sketchbook. I know a lot of people kind of get intimidated by the first page, especially, you see that blank page and it can be intimidating. What I recommend is kind of forgetting all that stuff, get out of your own head, and I would just start with pretty much just like warm-ups, and that's basically you just take your pen and you just draw a bunch of lines, and you kind of you kind of get your hand warmed up. Just draw some straight lines going one way. Try to keep the line as straight as possible. Then you can draw some lines at a slant. Again, try to keep them as straight as possible, relatively the same length. Then you can draw some curves going one way, and then going the other way. And those are really, I mean, those are really all the warm-ups you're going to need. Pretty much every line you're going to draw is going to be some variation of this. It's going to be a straight line, a curved line. You can do some S-shaped lines like that. Again, going one way. You can start at the top, start from the bottom, you know, and then get them going the other way. Like that. You could also do some shapes. For circles, you can kind of hover over the paper like that just to get the rhythm, and then start drawing some circles again just to kind of get your hand warmed up. And that's pretty much going to take care of your first page jitters. I mean, again, you've got a lot more pages, so don't worry about the first page. It's not a big deal, but that'll help you kind of overcome the first page and really get you ready to start drawing. And now when it does come to your first drawing, again, just start with something simple. Don't worry about drawing a cityscape just yet. Don't worry about drawing a portrait just yet. Just draw something simple. And I actually have this apple right here that I'm about to eat. But before I do that, I'll just show you how I would draw a nice simple apple to help you get started. And it doesn't have to be an apple. I mean, whatever you have, you can, you can draw a book that you have in front of you. You can draw anything at all. You can draw another piece of fruit. Whatever's in front of you, just draw that. Again, don't worry about drawing something super complex right from the jump, because it could lead to frustration and eventually kind of hurt you more than anything, because then again you'll get frustrated, you won't want to do it. It can definitely be a big roadblock. I know, because I've been there myself. So I would definitely recommend to just keep it simple. Again, nice easy apple. Something like that will be great for your first drawing. So let's get started with this apple. I'm just going to draw it right underneath my little warm-ups here, and yeah, let's get this apple going. All right, so the apple is a little uneven, so it's kind of slanted a little bit. So it's a bit at an angle. I'm going to kind of start with the stem here. Another thing I'd recommend too, and especially if you're using pen, it'll help you here. Don't worry about mistakes. Don't worry about a line being crooked. Don't worry about any of that. Just focus on, 1, having fun, and 2, just the process of drawing. Just take it one line at a time, one shape at a time. Don't get in your head about it. It's not something, you're not trying to reproduce a photograph. If you wanted a photograph, grab a camera. This is just a drawing of how you perceive something, of how you see something. It's just, you're just expressing yourself. So don't be concerned about, oh no, I made it a little crooked. Oh, this doesn't look like it should. It's fine. Don't worry. So that's my simple little apple. Again, nothing fancy. I am gonna try to watercolor it. You don't have to. If you just have a pen or a pencil right now, you can just shade it. I'll actually go ahead and kind of add some hatching to show you how you can do that with just a pen. So you can add some hatch marks like this just to indicate shadow, the darker parts here. And then you can also kind of darken up the lines on the bottom part here just to kind of indicate some shadow beneath it. And you can actually kind of also add some lines there just to kind of show that it's like sitting on a surface, that it's not just floating in space. And again, that's really all you need. I'm not going to go into too much hatching because, again, like I said, I do want to watercolor it because I'm curious to see how this paper holds up against watercolor. It is kind of thin, so it should be okay with like a light wash. But again, if you don't have any watercolors or anything like that, you're fine with just like hatching. You can use color pencils if you'd like. Again, I'm going to go with watercolor. So let's see how the watercolor holds up on this paper. And for watercolor, if you're looking again to just stay within a reasonable budget, I have regular brushes, but I also use like these water brushes as well. I use these a lot for like my urban sketching. These are basically just they're just brushes that have you can unscrew the brush part and you fill this part with water, and then that way as you're painting, you don't have to like dip your brush in water. You kind of just squeeze the body, and it brings the water down to the brush, and you have that. And also, and I actually have a video on this. Speaking of budget, I actually made this little watercolor palette from an old a mint tin box. I'll actually link to that video so you could check that out if you want to make like your own palette instead of having to buy a palette. But yeah, so let's see how this paper is going to hold up with a light wash. There you go. There's a nice simple little apple. This paper actually, for a light wash, I mean, it's not too bad. I mean, I wouldn't do more than just a few layers, maybe like 1 or 2 layers. But yeah, this paper actually, there's a little bit of buckling, but again, it's not meant to be watercolor paper. But if you're interested in using it for watercolor, this looks like it'll work for a very light wash. And yeah, again, like I said, that's a nice simple little drawing to get your sketchbook broken in. And again, it doesn't have to be anything fancy. And now from here, you just keep going. So I recommend, I like to draw every day. I know that can be a little much, especially if you're someone starting out. It could be a lot, especially when you're trying to kind of work it into your already busy schedule. But again, you don't need to spend that much time on it, as you saw. I mean, this drawing, including the painting, took me maybe 4 or 5 minutes. You know, it wasn't anything too time consuming. So you could just draw simple things in your everyday life. Again, you know, if you're somebody who commutes to work, and I actually also did a video on this that I'll link to here on just making drawing a daily habit, if you're somebody who commutes to work, you know, if you take the bus or the train, you can draw what you see on the bus or train. If, you know, on your lunch break, you can draw like your lunch, your sandwich, your salad, whatever you're having. So yeah, definitely give this a shot. I hope it helps you get started on your journey. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know if these tips were helpful. Let me know if you're somebody who's going to start on your artistic journey. And yeah, and let me know any questions that you guys may have. I'm happy to answer them. I try to respond to all the comments that I get. So yeah, I hope you like this video. Give me a thumbs up. Leave a comment down below. Be sure to subscribe to the channel like I mentioned before, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye, everybody.